Thank you all for joining our webinar where we look at the benefits of cloud modernization. Thank you all for joining. Any questions, pop them in the Q&A chat bar, and at the end of the session, we will address them. So I guess we're all familiar with the cloud journey now. It's been happening for years. You migrate from on-premise into a cloud platform, but that's not the end of the journey. It's really just the beginning. You may find your costs are climbing. You may feel like it's just hosting servers. Today, we're going to cover this off, where we're going to look at Livepro's cloud journey, Livepro's cloud modernization, and then we'll close out with some Q&As. So any questions, again, just pop them in the Q&A and we'll address them all at the end. We have Brad here from Liverpro. We have Adam from PolarSeven as panelists, and Kimmy and Simon are in the background looking at your questions and stuff. So if you have any questions, they will address them for us and then shout them out. My name is Daryl King. I'm your host for today. PolarSeven is an AWS advanced consulting partner with DevOps competency and public sector. We have been accelerating customer cloud journeys to Amazon Web Services since 2013. We love to see organizations like Liverpro embrace public cloud and reap the long-term benefits of increased security, reduced total cost of ownership, and a global reach. We'll pass over to Brad now, who will outline a bit about Liverpro and then tell us more around his journey. Over to you, Brad.
Thanks, Daryl. Yeah, I do want to spend a lot of time on our journey, but just so to get context about why it was important and where it all fits in, I just wanted to give 2 slides on what Liverpro is. Liverpro is a knowledge management system built for contact centers, but now broadened to providing the answer to the customer no matter what device they ask the question. So they could be on the internet, they could be on the phone, and it's all about, the difference with Liverpro is that it's all about providing an answer, not information. Most other knowledge bases and knowledge systems will actually send you to a PDF or a knowledge article that you have to read through and interpret to find the answer. And what we all know as customers is that we want an answer, we don't want information. And that's why Liverpro is successful and how it's been built. Next slide. So at a glance, have a look at the 4 things down the bottom, because that's the area that I really want to focus on, and that is that we are proudly Australian, but we're loved globally. The whole focus for Liverpro is that we are going to be the easiest system to use globally, easiest system to manage, and the easiest people to deal with. And we've been in operation since 2001. There's a bunch of features that we have within Liverpro. If anybody's interested in a customer experience knowledge management system, let me know. I won't bore you with all of the detail there, but you could read through them. The big thing is that, as I mentioned, we want to deliver the answer to a customer through whatever channel they ask it. And so therefore it's obvious that we need to be on the cloud and that we need to be scalable. We also went through our SOC accreditation, and we are acknowledged by independent organizations like COPC, who are a global consulting firm to large organizations on customer service, where the system recognized globally as the one that they recommend for contact centers and customer experience in general. We can lose the slide because I just really want to run through what our history is on the cloud and just how Liverpro has evolved. If anybody's got any questions, just throw them in the chat. I'm quite happy to answer them as we go, so that it's as interactive as possible. And it means that I'm actually going to be delivering the answers to whatever questions that you have along the way. That was unintended. I took over Liverpro almost 8 years ago, and the majority of customers were on-prem. And Liverpro at that point was owned by a company that had been purchased by Ricoh. and they were hosting their LivePro themselves in their own data center. When I took over the company, I decided that we were only going to be cloud focused, and being cloud focused and not supply on-prem, the obvious thing was that we needed to get out of a small hosted situation and get into a global hosting organization. And at that point, we went through a lot of investigation just to actually decide on AWS. Once we decided on AWS, then it was a matter of finding an organization that we could partner with, because we were an organization of developers and customer experience people, not hosting architects, and not an organization that can had the expertise to be able to take us anywhere on on the web and on the cloud. So we went through a fairly extensive review of the organizations that could work with us to actually continue to help us evolve. And we ended up deciding on PolarSeven, and we decided on PolarSeven at that point because they had the high level of expertise, but they also were an organization that we felt at that point could partner with us. I'll jump to the end of the story quickly. We're still with them, so we must have been right, and we were. And the reason why I'm spending a whole hour on a webinar for them.
Thank you, Brad.
The whole focus, when you're trusting such an important component of your business to an organization, you need to trust that they've got the experience. But you also need to trust that they actually want to understand your business to help make recommendations about what you should do. So in the early days, we really needed them to help us make sure that we had the high availability, we had the redundancy, we had the backups, we had the security, and for the uninitiated, AWS, while it's a great organization, trying to actually maneuver your way through all of the options and all of the configurations that you can have is just too difficult. And it was logical at that point, and it's proved to be right, that component needed to have experts on it. And over the next 6 months, the team at PolarSeven actually helped design what we needed. And fast forward, obviously then helped us evolve, because we went from an organization that had 2 clients on the cloud, only in Australia, and now we're a global organization. We had global aspirations. If you're a SaaS company, you've got to have global aspirations. We had global aspirations. We needed to be set up in other regions. We needed to be able to deploy in other regions. But since for those early days, organizations have become a lot more savvy on what they require of their partners and their providers. And so the security and the architecture of the system is vital to them. And so what we needed was an organization and a partner like PolarSeven to continue to help. They would either give us an opportunity to work with one of our prospects, if it was an important prospect and they wanted some comfort that we had quality partners working with us, PolarSeven would hold our hands during the proposals. We've evolved past that. I know that they're still available to do it, but that's not necessary. But as the requirements came along, we just turned to PolarSeven and they helped us evolve. But more than that, what was really important is that they will proactively come to us and say, this is what we think is the emerging thing that you should be considering. Sometimes the business requirements don't necessarily allow us to take that immediate action, but we know that PolarSeven's there to help provide that service along the way. It's actually really, really comforting. And so we've been able to evolve as a SaaS organization, but relying on a partner to do one of the key components of SaaS, and that's the hosting, and that's the security and the guidance on the infrastructure. And it's worked really, really well, to the point where early this year, I got a phone call from Daryl saying, we've been watching you evolve, and we've been watching your growth, we're watching the regions you want to go into, and we think we need to go through a complete evaluation of how it's architected. It was great at the time, but things have moved on, and we're now recommending that you look at a more modern, a more agile infrastructure and architecture. When you have even though they're a partner, when you have a supplier ring you and say, hey, I've got just thought of a great revenue opportunity for myself, you will often look at it and be a little skeptical. And although PolarSeven are a trusted partner, we obviously went through the whole evaluation and really did a lot of forensics on what their recommendation was, where they thought we should be evolving, how much they really understood our business. Because if you're going to have a partner make a recommendation that is going to be so significant, they better really understand your business. And that's one of the key components of the partnership. Anyway, after the evaluation and the forensics, it was agreed that for us to be able to deploy in the regions that we want, at the speed that we want, with the security and the availability that we want, we really needed to evolve. And that's what we've been working on with PolarSeven over the last 3 or 4 months now. So the whole concept of introducing containers and that infrastructure would have been something, if we didn't have a partner, that we might have stumbled across. We might have thought we need to investigate it. But when you've got an organization that you can rely on that is deep into the AWS infrastructure and the AWS plugins, you can relax a little and have them come to you and make the recommendations. So even through the project, there's never a situation where partnerships are all rosy. There's always going to be arguments about and discussions about what needs to happen. But when you've got a true partnership, you have that discussion, argument, disagreement about what is right, and you do it from a level of respect, so that it's not just pushing your point, it's actually pushing your point and respecting the other individual's expertise to listen to theirs. So that is one of the key components of the relationship that we've got, and I think any partnership that I ever want to develop. I'm not sure. I can see a chat there. Is that just somebody applauding my presentation, or is there actually a question that somebody wants to ask?
So Kev Punter, he says his
Kev.
AWS was his clear direction for livepro hosting at the end of his involvement. History is a funny thing.
Hello, Kevin. Yes, Kev was with livepro when just before I took over, and he was the chief visionary and architect. I'm not sure, Kev, that people were listening to you when you actually said AWS, because when I suggested it, there was an argument as well. But clearly they listened to both of us.
Eventually. That's the journey, though, isn't it?
It is. It is. Is there any questions from the audience, or anything that anybody wanted to dig more deeply into?
not at this stage, but we'll have a Q&A at the end.
Yeah.
If you're happy to do that.
Yeah. So absolutely. So with the partnership that we've got and the development that we've had, clearly that happens because you've got the two organisations intertwined. And so the regular meetings that we have, the regular recommendations that we get from PolarSeven that we, on how we can continue to reduce costs and continue to make the system more efficient is another key component to what we really should do and what everybody should focus on. At the risk of getting boring, I think we could probably hand it over to Adam and he can run through exactly what we're doing.
No, thank you for that, Brad. And that symbiotic relationship is important for us too. And yeah, always tell us if we're not listening. So it's important to continue to listen.
You know I do, Daryl.
That's it.
You know I do.
And we appreciate that, which is great. And it's a two-way street in any relationship. So that's good. Yeah. That's why I think it works so well. But thank you for sharing that journey.